Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to do a painting, and this is just for practice. This is not your actual project. This is just a practice to kind of practice out some painting techniques and that kind of stuff. So we kind of started this possibly in class. We didn't have a lot of time, but I took a piece of paper and I taped it down all the way around. So if you have masking tape at home, you can tape the perimeter. I put a white base coat on the whole entire paper, and then I started dipping my brush in teeny amounts of paint, and then I blended it in with the white base. I'm doing this instead of mixing my colors actually like directly onto my palette. So you can see I'm doing like a sunset picture. So, you know, typically if I say what color is the sky, a lot of people will say blue. But, you know, it depends on the time of day, it depends on night or day, it depends on if it's cloudy, if it's stormy. So the sky is definitely not just always blue. It's got a lot of different colors going on sometimes. So I chose to do this in a kind of alternative color. So I started with the pink and then blended in some yellow and kind of let them merge in the middle for some peach. And then I added some blue, violet with some white. So all those painting practice sheets that we did with neutrals or tints, tones, and shades, or mixing all of those tertiary colors, the intermediate colors, just gives you hopefully some more painting kind of knowledge for paint mixing. So now I made that same blue violet, and I kind of just put the kind of squiggly line in, kind of the shape of some mountains and kind of hills for some contrast. So off to the left it's a little less dark, and then I kind of darkened it up with just a tiny bit of black into my blue violet to kind of make it pop in front of that yellow part of the sky. So I kind of have that cloud area going up and over into the pink, and then I have the pink fading out into the peach and then the yellow. All right, now I'm adding some actual like yellow and pink, kind of orangey colors into my mountains. So that orange is going to kind of blend in with that blue and kind of make a neutrally gray color. And then if I do want a little bit of darker, I add just a touch of black into my colors. Not a whole lot, because you don't want to add it, like have it actually just look just black. You still want a lot of color sensitivity to your painting rather than it just being like blacks and whites. So your tints and your shades should always have a little bit of color, or a lot of color, and a little bit of black or white mixed in. All right, then I'm going to take that kind of gray color that I accomplished, not from black and white, but from that blue violet and that orange. I'm going to just kind of streak it out. Now don't forget, you guys are using tempera paint, so you can hydrate your paint a little bit with water. Not a lot, we don't want to turn this into watercolor, but just a little bit of water, and it'll help to kind of blend your paint when it starts to feel sticky. Or if it's not kind of blending as well as you want, just try just a touch of water and just kind of help that hydrate your paint a tiny bit, just a little bit of water, not a lot. All right, so then I'm going to add some like kind of neutralized green. I made a green, and then I added red to it. So, and it was more on the forest green, not the limey green or the Kermit the Frog green. It was the foresty green, and then I added some red to it to kind of neutralize it. Just a touch of yellow kind of dabbed in there. Now I'm working on wet paint. So I'm putting this color down on white. So when I do that, I'm pulling through some of that white, kind of whitish gray kind of from below. So I'm going to have to let that rest a minute, and I can kind of move on. So I'm going to kind of streak in some of the similar sky colors into the white so that they're really light, a lot lighter. Add some more white on top, add some water, add a little bit of red so it gives that peach color. And this can kind of start to look like water. If it gets too bright, I just put a little bit more white on top. Some violets. Violets is an amazing color for shading. So I'm going to kind of streak that back and forth. I'm not going all the way out to the outside edges because I want some trees on the right side. And I am looking at a reference picture on my computer, but it's not, this is not a total match. So I can attach the reference picture to the classroom post. So again, this is just for practice, you guys. So find maybe a reference picture, maybe one of the pictures you use to make your collage, just one of them, and just kind of imagine what your colors would be, even if it's a black and, you know, if you're looking at a black and white copy, you can change the colors. Maybe in this, maybe if I was looking at a picture like this, it actually had a blue sky, you know, and I wanted to make it more into a sunset. So you can change things. You're an artist, so you can change stuff around. All right, so these trees, they look kind of amazing or whatever. I laugh because they're not that amazing. But anyway, they're triangular, and I just dabbed. I didn't brush stroke, I dabbed my brush. Still got to work on that area, but once you kind of get your an area too wet, it might be hard to put more color in there before it gets too muddy. So I'm jumping around and I go back out to that strip of trees out there, add some shading and some value around it. A little touch of green or dark green, some blacks, come back down and work on this. All right, so I had to wait a little bit so my colors are not actually muddy. So if you've ever, when you were younger, you mixed up your colors, your painting was full of paint. If you started getting a lot of like mucky browns and grays, it's just because your paints hadn't been left to dry enough or get tacky. So at this point, they kind of set up a little bit, had just a tiny bit of drying time, not much because tempera paint dries really fast. And then I'm going to continue to add some contrast. So I'm using some black with green or green with black in it, so a shade. I'm just kind of shading that down because if the sun was that bright in the sky, there would definitely be shadow on, I guess you'd say the front side. So I have a little bit of blue-green, and I kind of am swatching some, kind of swishing my brush back and forth in the, what would be water, kind of creating those mountains. Go back over to the trees and add more shadow and contrast with some black, some dark green, so with some black in it. So the main thing with a landscape is you just really want to work all over, and you want to kind of just make sure you're blending your colors into each other, actually on your paper. And guys, literally, when I go back over to my paint cups to get paint, I am taking like the tiniest amount on my brush, and it does an amazing difference than like a huge scoop full of paint. So it's just a really relaxing way to paint, and you want to use layers, and you want to use a tiny bit of paint. So I thought I was done, but that row of trees back there is kind of light, so I need to darken them up. So I'm gonna do that. They were just too yellowy green. So basically I took that same kind of forest green with some black in it, that blue green with some black in it. I'm just gonna darken them up. And the darker everything else gets, the brighter the sky gets, or the reflection of the mountains in the water gets. Some more contrast, more shadow. And now I'm done. Good luck.